Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time we're going to get into leadership and corporate culture.
Ooh.
Always relevant. Yeah, always a hot topic, right?
Okay.
We've got some really interesting case studies this time.
Yeah.
We've got leaders with wildly different approaches. So
Yeah.
first up, we're going to look at Nikki Lawson,
Okay.
who is the managing director of KFC South Pacific.
Interesting.
And then we're going to look at Dr. Dyan Dorak,
Okay.
who is the CEO of Citywide Health, a very large healthcare provider.
Got it.
And then for contrast, we'll look at Jack, who's a manager at Nars Chocolates.
Okay.
And his style is, shall we say, a little bit more old school.
Sounds good. I'm ready for the good, the bad, and the ugly of leadership.
That's what we're going to get into. So Nikki Lawson,
Yeah.
her HashMyPlan initiative
Okay.
really caught my attention.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that one.
This is a program where KFC encourages employees to map out their personal and career goals,
Okay.
even if those goals lead them outside of KFC. It seems a little counterintuitive.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Right. To invest in employees when they might leave.
It does kind of go against the grain a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, at first glance, anyway.
Yeah.
But, I think when you dig a little deeper, it's actually a really clever strategy.
Yeah.
And it aligns with what we call transformational leadership.
Okay.
So transformational leaders like Lawson focus on really inspiring and motivating their employees to reach their full potential,
Okay.
even if it means they go work somewhere else.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the idea is that if you foster that culture of growth and development, then you're going to create really engaged employees and loyal employees, which in the end helps the company be more successful.
Makes sense.
And the fascinating thing here is that Lawson didn't just talk the talk,
Yeah.
She really embodied it.
Yeah, it wasn't just about the program itself.
Exactly.
It was how she led.
Yeah.
Everyone says she really emphasized teamwork,
Okay.
valued everyone's ideas, created a fun and engaging work environment.
Sounds good to me.
There's even a quote from her that says, when people feel valued, when they're seen as people first, they go on to achieve great things.
Nice.
Yeah. And this wasn't just like some, passing fad.
Right.
She was at KFC for 19 years.
Wow.
And eventually she became chief brand officer at Taco Bell,
Oh, wow.
which is also under Yum Brands.
Oh, okay. So she stayed within the larger company.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So she clearly had a style that really worked for everybody.
Yeah. That's a long time to be at a company,
Yeah, that's true.
especially in, today's world.
That's true.
Makes you wonder, do you think this kind of approach would work in any industry?
Whoa.
Or is it specific to fast food?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, I do see how empowering employees and, encouraging them to grow
Yeah.
could work anywhere.
Right. Who doesn't want to feel supported
Exactly.
in their job?
Yeah. But on the other hand, I do wonder if it would be more challenging in industries with really specialized roles, or if you lose one employee, that's a big loss of expertise.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The transferability would definitely depend on the industry and the type of organization.
Right.
But I think the underlying principle is that valuing and investing in your employees is always applicable.
Yeah.
Even in really specialized fields.
Yeah.
If you foster growth and development, you're probably going to retain your employees better.
Yeah.
And they're going to be more engaged and more innovative.
Right. So it's win-win.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's move on to Dr. Dyan Dorak.
Okay.
So she is leading Citywide Health. They were going through a period of big growth.
Okay.
And she was really focused on building a culture of quality and innovation.
Culture of quality and innovation.
Yeah.
That sounds like a big goal.
Yeah.
How'd she do it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big organization.
Yeah.
A healthcare provider with a $500 million budget.
Wow.
That's a lot of moving pieces.
No, a lot of moving pieces, yeah.
So how do you actually put that into practice?
Yeah.
So her approach was two main things.
Yeah.
Stakeholder partnerships
Okay.
and staff empowerment.
Got it.
So she knew that to achieve this cultural shift, she needed buy-in from everybody,
Yeah, that makes sense.
internally and externally.
All right.
So patients, staff, community partners,
Oh, wow.
even competitors in some cases.
So she was really thinking big picture.
Yeah.
Like how it all fits together.
Yeah, so that's the stakeholder piece.
Okay.
But how did she empower the staff to, contribute to this idea of quality and innovation?
Right, because it's easy to say
Yeah.
that you want to empower people,
Right.
but how do you actually do it?
Right. especially in healthcare, which can be really hierarchical.
Yeah, for sure.
So she really emphasized inclusive decision-making.
Okay.
She wanted to get input from all levels of the organization.
Interesting.
It wasn't just about gathering ideas, but about giving people ownership
Okay.
and engagement.
Yeah.
So when employees feel like their voice is heard
Yeah.
and their contributions matter,
Right.
then they're going to be more invested in the company's success.
Totally.
It's like creating a mini culture of empowerment
Yeah.
within each team.
Uh-huh.
But how did she make sure this trickled down?
Yeah, that's a good question.
To all levels.
It's one thing to have a CEO who believes in something,
Right.
but how does that actually get reflected?
Yeah, how do the managers interact with their teams?
Right, exactly.
So it's about leadership at all levels.
Yeah.
So she created a very supportive and collaborative environment
Okay.
where open communication was encouraged.
Uh-huh.
And she also used training programs to help managers develop the skills.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
To actually lead in a way that aligns with the company's values.
Exactly. So it was very deliberate
Yeah.
and systematic
Sounds like it.
to cultivate this culture.
That's cool.
It wasn't just words, it was actions and systems.
It sounds like she put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so now for a stark contrast.
Oh, boy.
Let's talk about Jack from Nars Chocolates.
Oh.
I think we're about to enter a very different leadership world.
I have a feeling.
His management style is a little bit more...
A little more direct.
A little direct is one way to put it.
Yeah.
I think authoritarian might be more accurate.
Authoritarian. Okay,
Yeah.
so like a top-down control and authority are very important.
Exactly.
Okay.
So break it down for us.
Okay.
What are some of the characteristics of this authoritarian leadership?
Okay, so a big thing is a very rigid adherence to rules and procedures.
Okay.
There's not a lot of room for flexibility or individual initiative.
Okay.
All decisions are made at the top, and subordinates are expected to just follow orders, no questions asked.
Got it.
And this type of leader often thinks that they know everything, and their way is the only way.
Okay, so how do we see this play out with Jack?
So with Jack, there's this meeting.
Okay.
And he publicly criticizes Carly,
Who's Carl?
who's the marketing manager.
Okay.
And he says, "You've done a poor job.
Ouch.
And the rest of you will be producing rubbish if you don't follow his guidelines."
Wow. That sounds...
Yeah, it's pretty harsh.
Yeah, I bet that did not do wonders for team morale.
Not really, no.
Okay.
It's like he's setting them up for failure.
Right.
With this fear and intimidation.
Exactly. And when people are afraid,
Yeah,
they don't communicate openly.
for sure.
They don't want to share their ideas because they're afraid of being criticized.
Right.
And we see this with Josh and May.
Who are they?
They're two of his managers.
Okay.
And they just feel disrespected,
Oh, I know.
micromanaged,
Jack.
just disillusioned with their work.
So they feel stifled, basically. Like they can't do their best work.
Yeah.
So whereas Lawson and Dvorak focused on empowering their teams,
Yeah.
Jack is doing the opposite.
He's disempowering them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Leadership isn't about wielding power or dictating every decision.
Right. It's about creating the right environment
Yes.
where people feel safe
Yeah.
to contribute and, take some risks
Yeah.
and learn from their mistakes.
Exactly.
Which is something that Jack is clearly not doing.
No, he's not.
In fact, he even tells Khalid,
Who's Khalid?
who is another employee,
Okay.
that he doesn't need opinions from subordinates.
Wow.
He literally says, "As the boss, I don't need opinions from subordinates."
Wow. So he's shutting down collaboration
Totally.
and any possibility of innovation.
Pretty much.
It's like he's missing out on so much
Yeah,
by not tapping into the collective wisdom of the group.
totally.
Yeah.
So Jack's case is a real reminder
Yeah.
of how a negative and controlling leadership style can really hurt the work environment
Yeah.
and stifle creativity and actually
Yeah.
hinder the organization's success.
So we've got these three very different leadership styles, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. But I'm curious to see how this plays out
Yeah.
in the real world.
Me too.
What are the actual consequences?
Yeah, like for the companies and the employees.
Right.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And the answer is not always so simple.
Right.
Let's start with Nikki Lawson at KFC.
Okay.
So I've got Lawson's empowering approach at KFC, and then Dvorak's focus on systemic change at Citywide Health. And then there's Jack, who seems to be stuck in a different era entirely. But before we go any further, I'm really curious, how do these leadership styles actually translate into, bottom line results? Can we draw a direct line between Lawson's #MyPlan initiative and KFC's profits.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, it's something that people have been trying to figure out for decades.
Yeah.
It's tough to isolate just leadership as the one factor in a company's success or failure.
Right. There's so many things that influence that.
Exactly. Market conditions, industry trends, even just plain luck.
Totally.
But leadership sets the tone right.
Yeah, leadership creates the climate, the atmosphere
Exactly.
for everything else to happen in.
So we can't say for sure that #MyPlan directly caused KFC's profits to go up.
Right.
But we can look at the trends.
We can look at the overall picture, yeah.
Yeah. So what were the trends during Lawson's time?
So during her time as managing director, KFC South Pacific saw some pretty significant growth.
Okay.
Both in their market share and profitability.
Okay.
And employee satisfaction was consistently high.
Interesting.
And turnover rates were really low.
Which is unusual for fast food.
Especially for fast food, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, correlation doesn't equal causation.
Right.
But it's pretty hard to ignore the positive outcomes associated with her leadership.
It makes you think how many people might have, flourished under her leadership and gone on to do amazing things even if they didn't stay at KFC.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a legacy that goes way beyond the company.
Totally. It's like a ripple effect of positivity.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that leadership isn't just about, short-term gains.
Right.
It's about building something sustainable that benefits everyone involved.
Okay, so how does that apply to Dorak at Citywide Health?
Yeah.
Because her focus seemed to be much more long-term.
It is a long game, for sure.
Yeah.
Cultural transformation doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
But if you look at her approach, it's clear that she was setting up Citywide Health for lasting change by emphasizing those stakeholder partnerships and staff empowerment.
Right.
She was creating a system that valued collaboration, continuous improvement, and a patient-centric approach.
Yeah.
And those are all really important for quality and innovation.
So I'm seeing the bigger picture now.
Yeah.
But how do you actually measure the impact of something like culture?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, is there like a metric for that?
It's a tough one to measure, for sure. It's not like profits or sales figures or something.
Right.
But there are some ways you can assess it.
Yeah.
Okay.
One way is to look at employee surveys. Engagement scores. Are they feeling more empowered? Do they want to recommend Citywide Health as a good place to work?
Okay.
And then you can also track patient satisfaction scores.
No, right?
Are patients having better experiences?
Yeah.
Are they getting better outcomes?
So these metrics aren't perfect, but they give you some insights.
They can give you some clues, into whether or not that cultural shift is actually happening.
So it's about looking at the whole picture and seeing positive changes everywhere.
Yep.
It's not just one data point.
Right.
It's the whole constellation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And cultural change, it's an ongoing process.
Right.
It's not a destination you reach. It's something you're always working on.
Yeah, you're constantly adapting and evolving.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the positive impacts of Lawson and Dvorak's styles.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to address the elephant in the room.
Uh-oh, yeah.
Jack.
His authoritarian approach seems to be having the opposite effect.
It's like a cautionary tale.
Yeah, you could just feel the morale plummet.
Yeah.
With every critical comment he makes.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about hurt feelings.
Right.
This is real business consequences.
Real consequences. Yeah.
So what are some of the downsides of his approach?
Well, first of all, you've got employee turnover.
Right.
When people feel constantly criticized and micromanaged, they're going to look for another job.
Right. They don't want to stay there.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads to losing valuable talent and experience.
Yeah.
Not to mention the costs of hiring and training new people.
Yeah, so it's not just a bad work environment.
Right.
He's hurting the company.
He's hurting the bottom line. Yeah.
And then there's the impact on productivity.
Totally.
And innovation.
Yeah, when people are afraid to speak up, the organization loses out on all those great ideas.
Right. And creative solutions.
Exactly.
Which leads to stagnation.
Yeah. And they're going to be less competitive if they're not innovating.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It really is.
Right? He thinks everyone's incompetent.
Yeah.
So he has to watch them constantly, which discourages them from actually taking initiative and developing their skills.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And it really shows you the difference between effective leadership and just management.
Okay.
Effective leaders inspire and empower people to be their best.
Yeah.
But managers often just try to control and direct people.
So Jack's more of a manager than a leader.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He cares about tasks and processes, but he's not paying attention to the people.
The human element is missing.
Right. He's not building relationships or fostering trust.
Nope.
And he's definitely not making people feel valued and respected.
Not at all.
So why do people cling to these outdated leadership styles?
That's a good question.
Even though we have all this evidence that other approaches are better?
Yeah. I mean, is it a lack of awareness?
Yeah. Are they afraid to let go of control?
Or maybe they just don't know how to do it any other way.
Right.
It's probably all of those things, you know? Maybe they had bad experiences in the past.
Right.
With more collaborative styles, or maybe they grew up in an environment where you just didn't question authority.
No.
Or maybe they're just more comfortable being the one in charge.
So how do we help people like Jack?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
How do you change someone's whole leadership style?
It's not easy, that's for sure.
Right.
Change is possible.
Right.
But they have to be self-aware.
Yeah.
They have to want to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they need a coach or a mentor to help them.
Right.
But even if Jack himself never changes, we can learn from this and avoid making the same mistakes.
I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
We all have the potential to lead in our families, in our communities, in our everyday lives.
Totally.
So let's think about what kind of leaders we want to be.
Yeah. What kind of impact do you want to have on the people around you?
Do you want to inspire and empower people, or do you want to control and criticize them?
That's a good question to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Leadership is a choice.
It's not a title.
It's not about your position.
Yeah.
It's about how we interact with and influence the people around us.
Okay, so as we wrap up our discussion of these leadership styles, let's dive into some practical takeaways.
Sounds good.
That our listeners can apply in their own lives.
Okay, so let's revisit some of those key principles we talked about.
Okay, so we've gone from like the really empowering leadership of Lawson and Dorak to the less inspiring, shall we say, management style of Jack.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It has been quite a ride.
Yeah.
But what are the main takeaways here? Like, what should people be thinking about?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it really pays to invest in your people you know.
Yeah.
Lawson with her #MyPlan initiative and Dorak focusing on empowering her staff, they both understood that a company can't really succeed unless its employees are growing and doing well.
It seems like a no-brainer, right? Like, it doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Right.
Whether it's fast food or healthcare.
Exactly.
You got to create an environment where people feel supported.
Yeah, and it's not just about making people feel good, you know?
Right.
There are real benefits to this approach.
Yeah, like what kind of benefits are we talking about?
Well, we've seen that when you invest in your employees, they're more engaged, you know?
Okay.
They're more likely to stay with the company, and that leads to better results for the business.
It's like a win-win.
Exactly, a win-win.
And a big part of that seems to be communication.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Dorak really wanted to include everyone in the decision-making. And Lawson created a fun and engaging work environment.
Yeah, they both understood the importance of open and respectful communication. And it's not just about what you say, it's how you say it.
Right. Tone matters.
Yeah, tone matters a lot. And when leaders really listen to their team and give good feedback and show that they appreciate them, it makes a huge difference.
And then we have Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Whose approach was the complete opposite.
Yeah, he was all about criticism.
Yeah, he was harsh.
Micromanaging.
Not trusting anyone.
And it created a really toxic environment.
Yeah, people didn't want to work there.
Nope.
And they certainly weren't coming up with new ideas.
No. It really shows you how damaging that kind of leadership can be.
So it's not about being the boss and just telling people what to do.
It's about inspiring people.
Yeah.
Guiding them to be their best.
So what are the essential ingredients of good leadership?
Okay, well, based on what we've talked about today, I'd say the most important things are to really be committed to investing in your people.
Okay.
To focus on open and respectful communication. And to empower people instead of trying to control them.
And this isn't just for CEOs and managers, right?
Oh, definitely not.
We can all be leaders.
Absolutely.
In our families, in our communities, just in our everyday lives.
Leadership is a choice we make every day.
Yeah. It's not about your title or position.
Right.
It's about how we choose to interact with the world.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want everyone listening to think about what kind of leader they want to be.
Yeah, do you want to inspire people?
Do you want to empower them?
Or do you want to just criticize and control them?
It's up to you.
And remember, it's never too late to learn and grow as a leader.
That's true.
There are tons of resources out there, books, articles, workshops, coaching programs.
Yeah, if you want to improve your leadership skills, There's definitely a way to do it.
For sure.
So go out there, be the best leader you can be, and make a positive difference in the world.
That's what it's all about.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
See you next time. See you then.
See you then.